Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you all doing this fine morning? I'm going to go quickly over to Chris Ford. Right on point, Chris. Morning, chaps. How's your drop balls? Well, mine are okay, thanks. A little bit warm, but yeah, not too bad. Mark Whiting is here. Mark Whiting is here as well. Dan Cullen says, no, yes, I was saying to Dan, I was busily writing. I woke up this morning about 6:15, I think, with an article half written in my head, and I had to get it down on paper before I forgot what the article was all about. So yeah, I've been sat here since about 6:30, typing furiously to get that article down on paper, but then also over here trying to put together the show. I think I've largely nailed it. Now let's have a look. Dan Cullen, it's more information than we needed. Morning, Chris. Left ones are a bit loose. I'd rather not know about that. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Loads and loads to get through this morning. We've got part 2 of our Beyond Fuel piece today. I've started to piece together the podcast, which will be an intro, all 3 parts. You're going to get part 2 today, plus a conclusion as well. There's going to be music and stuff going on as well. Started putting that together last night, which is probably why I couldn't sleep this morning, actually. But yeah, that's coming in the very near future. And those of you that are a member of our WhatsApp group or Buy Me a Coffee group, you will get it first. You'll get it free of charge. Everyone will get it free of charge, but you'll be getting it first. So we've done that bit of business. We've got a couple of it's not really long videos. We've got a couple of 3-minuters in our midst today. So without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. How do I do that again? Oh, yes, I press this button. Good morning to Jim Turner, to Ken Hatcher, and to Gary Muirhead, who all crept in while that was playing. Don't blame them. That's probably the right time to arrive, actually. You don't have to listen to me waffling on and trying to get through the intro. Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, the 20th of May. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, Steelwrist turns 20. And thank you very much indeed for Gary for alerting me to the video. A JCB 4CX goes to work. Block paving made easy, and there's quite a nice tune with that as well. And in our latest look back at Bauma 2025, we're savouring the Wacker Neuson razzmatazz. Yeah, plus in my morning monologue, as I've already indicated, I can tell you, second part of Beyond Fuel. And this time we're talking about the likely impact of electrification, hydrogenization on overseas markets, more specifically developing markets. We'll come to all of that in just a moment. But before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of today's mystery machine to attend to, and I'll remind you of the question of the day in a moment as well. But here comes the mystery machine. Right, mystery machine. I've done nothing with this. I've removed the background, but I've done nothing apart from that. So it is in its natural color, in its largely natural habitat, floating in the air. This is the machine that I need you to identify. As always, we are looking for both a make and a model. I can't really give you any clues without giving the game away too much, but you can see it has at least one wheel. It could well be a unicycle, but it probably isn't, given that this is a construction equipment show. So we're looking for a make and a model. While you're figuring that out, let me very quickly remind you of our question of the day, which looks like this. Yeah, very simple question today. What do you believe is the most overrated item of equipment or item of tech on the site you're on today, the site you're on yesterday, site you're on next week. Love to hear from you. Listen, I come at this from I'm literally surrounded by tech. Love me a bit of tech, love me a gadget, love me a tool, and so on down the line. But I do look around sometimes and think I use that maybe once a week. I mean, I've got have I got it to hand? It's somewhere here. I've got a mini drone here somewhere, which I love. I love taking it out, taking it for a fly. It's been to shows with me and various other bits and pieces. I use it maybe 4 times a year. I love it, but it's not exactly helpful. I'm going to say quick good morning, by the way, to Hardox Official over on Instagram. When you get a really good bucket and it doesn't fall apart, or when you get a really, really strong boom on a machine and it doesn't fall apart and it doesn't rust prematurely and it's strong and it's Hardox. Them people, Hardox, good morning. Love your work, fellas. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. What have we got over in the chat? What have we got? Okay, so Peter McKenna just joined us. Morning, Peter. Let me press your button. Not in the biblical sense, obviously. Let's have a look. We've got some guesses on the mystery machine. Let me do that first, because we've got Chris Ford reckons it could be a Volvo 120G. It is not. Dan Cullen reckons it could be a Lugong 835H. It's not one of those either. And it's also not a Cat 926M. Going back to tech and overrated equipment. Dan says, Chris says, on an excavator, GPS, technically no need for it. I think there's a few people that would probably dispute that, as it makes apps depend on technology. Operators, sorry, ops. I read that completely wrong. Makes operators depend on technology. Are we not all that way inclined these days? In your private life, your personal life? Dan, you and I were together a couple of Saturdays ago. You were showing me bits and pieces on your phone. How would you have done that 20 years ago? Would you have come with a bag of photographs and some print-offs of some articles? Would you? I take your point, though. Ken Hatcher is saying, Hardox is the stuff. It is most definitely the stuff. Hardox Official. Well, you obviously have a fan in me. You have a fan in our friend, the Sprocket Man, Ken Hatcher. Mystery Machine. Dan Cullen reckons it also might be the JCB 437 HT. It is not one of those. Let me show you a bit more, see if I can narrow it down a bit for you. There you are. A little bit of cab there. If that's your thing, please let us know what you think of all of that. And we're still looking, obviously, for bits of tech or bits of kit that you think are overrated. Going to go quickly. There's another one. Ken Hatcher says GPS not accurate enough. Really? I thought it was growing more accurate with each passing generation, but then I sit in an office, I don't sit in a machine, so maybe I have been misled. It wouldn't be the first time. As I've already said, we've got loads to get through. In fact, we're going to start the show in just a moment with the 20th anniversary of one of our favourite brands. Back after this. Yeah, we reported late last year that Steelwrist were about to celebrate their 20th anniversary, and they did. They did it. They did it to a degree at Bauma, but they've also released a film that marks 20 years of one of our favourite brands, certainly one of Gary Muirhead's favourite brands. Just while we're here, though, Frank Burby is over on Instagram. He of Deharco fame. Frank Burby of Deharco. Good morning to you, my friend. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Great to see you here. Steelwrist 20th anniversary. And thanks again, Gary, for flagging this one up. Here we go.
It all started with an idea to help excavator operators become more efficient. Steelwrist was born to make excavators safer and, above all, more efficient. With our products, we are transforming this industry. And over the last 20 years, we've built a fantastic team dedicated to innovation and customer success. Starting from a small garage in Vallentuna, north of Stockholm, we took our first steps. We launched our first tilt rotators in 2005. Over the years, our product portfolio has expanded a lot now including tilt rotators, quick couplers, rotor and tilt couplers, and of course a whole range of work tools.
Since start, Steelwrist wanted to change the industry. We have brought innovative products to the market. The fully casted tilt rotator, front-lid lock technology, and a strong focus on control systems. Our products are made to be stronger, smarter, and continuously driving the industry forward.
My name is Oskar Jacobsen, and I work as a machine operator at Wahlradsschakt, based in Uppsala. We have been using Steelwrist for many years now. They have great products, but most importantly, they have a great support team. Whenever there's been a problem, they've been there to help us. We've been using them for a variety of jobs for the past years, and we are very happy with the results.
As we grew, so did our reach. From Sweden to the Nordics, then across Europe, and eventually to North America and Asia. Each expansion a testament to our dedication to bringing Steelwrist solutions closer to customers worldwide. Today, we have a global footprint with team members in more than 20 countries.
It's really cool to see Steelwrist grow globally. We've been able to maintain our values and deliver our high standards, whether we're working with a customer in Europe, Asia, or North America.
Steelwrist has always been more than just products. It's about people, creating a workplace that values responsiveness, simplicity, and speed.
I've been here since the early years, and it's been incredible to be part of our growth. We work closely together, helping each other and learning from each other. You really feel like you're making a difference here.
With a new generation of tilt rotators, the small automatic couplers, and a wide range of work tools, we are ready for the future. Committed to bringing great solutions to customers all over the world. 20 years of dedication to earth-moving efficiency, together in a great community of fantastic customers and hard-working co-workers. This is Steelwrist, and this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I'm with Peter. What a well put together video. There were several things that struck me about that. First of all, aren't there a lot of blonde ladies working for Steelwrist? They're Swedish, of course they're blonde. Why would you expect anything else? The other thing that really struck me about that was, I think the temptation when you hit an anniversary is to talk about us. Oh, look at us. I do it myself. But look, we've done 500 shows. Aren't I clever? They actually included some customers there. A fantastic job, and congratulations to everybody at Steelwrist. 20 years in such a competitive market, and coming from a standing start as well. Awesome stuff. Jonathan Dura says, very good video. Totally agree. Mystery Machine. Let me go back to the Mystery Machine because we've got some more guesses here. I think that's where we left it. We left it with JCB 437HT from Dan. It's not. Jonathan Duras is going for the Cat CS12 roller. It's not. Gary's going for the JCB Tally Truck. It's not one of those. I think we have a winner. Gary Muirhead says, Lana, the operator, absolutely loves her new Steelwrist. Didn't know she was on Steelwrist. I must admit, I do need to catch up with Lana. I've kind of, I've even written a thing, which will come out at 11 o'clock today, funnily enough, about how bad I am. It's partly about how bad I am at keeping up with people. Feel awfully guilty about it. I actually spoke to a friend of mine the other night who suffered the... basically his company collapsed, and I'm really bad at grief. If people suffer a bereavement, I have a nasty habit of not speaking to them because I don't know what to say. I don't know how to deal with it, and I've got to be honest. I've kind of realized I do the same thing when companies suffer the loss of a company. My default is to I want to avoid that, and I feel awfully guilty about it. So I've written about it for today, and we'll come back to that. Now, Dan Cullen has actually got the right answer on our mystery machine. He says it's the Sani SYL 956H. However, he said that at 10:15. Chris Ford said it at 10:14. Yeah, let me show you. Here we go. Let me put it on the screen because that make more sense. It is indeed the Sany SYL956H. Well done, Mr. Ford. Now, that is an interesting turn of events because as of now, Dan Cullen has 4 wins this month. Chris Ford has 4 wins this month, all the way down to the wire. All the way down to the wire. Now, Dan is saying H5. I can't check it there. Let me just go and, not that it matters. I'm not going to quibble over that, but I'm just going to make sure because my eyesight is not all that it once was. Let me just go over to here very quickly. No, that's the wrong thing. It's that one I want. Bear with me. No, what it actually says on the machine is SYL956H. There's no H5. There is an H5, but this says H. That's where it stops. So I'm going to let that one slide. There we are. Chris Ford says, great minds think alike, Dan, but fools seldom differ. Well said. No matter, lol, the battle is now on. I think you said that yesterday, but the battle is even more on as of today. Not more on, but it's even more on. You get the idea. Congratulations to Chris Ford, who has come from a standing start and has caught up with the mighty Dan Cullen, a reigning champion, I think, if I'm not very much mistaken. So, Dan, you need to watch yourself because Mr. Ford is breathing down your neck. We're going to be right back. We've done all that. Still looking for overrated items of tech or kit that you don't particularly like. Back after this with a JCB 4CX.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, JCB 4CX requires no introduction, so I'll shut the hell up and get on with it.
Hi, I'm Kenny Hume from B&K Hume Groundworks. We've been going for nearly 25 years in the construction industry. We've just took possession of this 4CX. Currently, we've got a 140X machine and we've got a telehandler as well, JCB. And they've never let us down. It's fast on the roads, it's got a good seat system and the controls on it with the servo controls, it's good for the men to use it, they like it. It's got lock-up torque on it, which we can use to get from the Scottish borders up into Edinburgh, which works very well. And it's just an all-round machine that works well for us. We sat down with Scott in the office, had a look at all the colours, and we've nearly been going 25 years, and so we thought it might be something different, and it actually looks really well anyway. It's the most used machine in our fleet. The JCB 4CX is out virtually every day. It's very versatile for what we use it for. The 4CX JCB gets operated by Roger. He's been driving the digger for us. I think he's happy. He just seems to like the dual drive, and the inside the cab is an improvement. The front bucket coming off helps him to use the front forks. So we're hoping to put different attachments on the back of it. It's a very universal machine. On this particular job, 1 minute he's lifted in curbs individually because for manual handling, and then he's digging out the trenches for electric cables and water pipes is another thing. Other jobs he's doing foundations. Other jobs he's taking bricks to the bricky with the forks. He quite likes the layout and that, with the air conditioning in it, and JCB 4CX does what we need it to do. To transfer it from job to job, you've got no load of costs. The front bucket is phenomenal with the big wheels. It goes into some really wet holes, travels the ground really well. The front bucket can shove and it can move muck as well, and it's very adaptable with the front bucket coming off to use the forks. Services building sites really well. It's just a good all-round machine that seems to do everything we need it to do. We do use a live link. The live link is very useful because we use it for checking the amount of fuel that's used from job to job, and we can see where the digger is, and I can check out when it's due a service, and if there's any fault it flashes it up. JCB is a brand, we've been with them for 25 years, there's a reason for that, they do everything we need. We've had instances where we have to go to Edinburgh to load a lorry. It takes just under an hour, it's 35 mile roughly. Goes up there, 20-ton lorry, it'll load it in 5 minutes, and then it can come all the way back again. There's no lorry involved, and it keeps the cost down. We've been working with Scott JCB for the last 25 years, and they seem to be very good at what they do. We've got no problems with them. If anything breaks down, they're there. We've bought our 8-ton digger an 8-ton 360 and was going to use that instead. But then it cost us extra money on low loader costs, and then we needed to put a dumper with it as well. So that was another machine, another man. It doesn't work. The 4CX seems to work for what we do.
Yeah, the main man, Garvin, has just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning to you, my friend. Now, Kerry Jones. Kerry Jones with the ups and the downs, the pluses and the minuses. Now, first of all, he says this. New 4.6 with dual drive is an absolute beast. I agree. I have seen one of those up close, and it is indeed a beast. On the flip side, our question of the day is what piece of kit or whip-bodied tech is overrated? And Kerry also offers the Cat 313. Absolute pile of poo. Couldn't pull your trousers down. That expression alone has just made my morning. Thank you for that, Kerry. Lots of people loving the colour scheme of the 4CX there. Dan Cullen. Dan Cullen is back on the job market, on the hunt now for a start next week. Things not going to plan here. Too many people standing and not enough to keep going. If anybody has any jobs going requiring Dan and his very particular set of skills, he will find you and he will dig holes for you. Yeah, that's Dan. If anybody's got anything, let him know. You know where to find him. If you can't find him here, find him on the WhatsApp group. Dan Cullen on the lookout for a fresh start. We're going to be back in just a moment with something a little bit out of the ordinary.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
What do we got here in the chat? Jim Turner says, tramp on machine for 2 hours to chuck one load on. Sod that. Grab a wagon. Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look. Now, let me go back to here. So yesterday afternoon, I was basically scrolling the interwebs as I do, because I don't have a social life or friends or anything like that. And I came across a film. And it was quite good. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was quite an unusual piece of kit. And I thought, you know what that needs? That needs some music. So I took the film, I took some music, and this is it. And that's block paving made easy. Love that. Chris Ford, now talking about the fact that Dan is currently looking for work, he says, Chris Ford says this, I could set Dan on in the bottom of the site where there's no phone signal or internet. Maybe I'd stand a chance of winning the mystery machine. Well, Dan, Chris, get your heads together. You could end up with a job, but you would be foregoing the mystery machine. It's your choice. We're going to be back with a bit of razzmatazz from the fine folks at Wacker Neuson immediately after this. It strikes me that I'm doing things slightly out of order here. Back end of last week, I told you that one of the best displays, one of the best demonstrations at Bauma was by Wacker Neuson. I told you about it, Probably should have shown you first, shouldn't I? Well, I'm about to set that right. Here we go. I've said it before and I'll say it again. There ain't no party like a Wacker Neuson party. They put on a fantastic display. Congratulations to all of them and very well done to everybody that attended. Real party spirit on that stand. Every once in a while, like every other hour or so, they would start the things up and literally thousands of people, and they were singing and dancing and just fantastic stuff. Awesome job. That's about it for the main part of today's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like into part 2 of my latest morning monologue series, which is about Beyond Fuel. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon, but if you do have the time and the inclination, do please stick around, because I shall return forthwith immediately after this. Just very quickly, yesterday we did part 1 of Beyond Fuel. This is part 2. I'm working in the background on an audio podcast, which I think is going to be about 40 minutes long. It's quite a big thing. And we're also going to be producing a mini book as well. I'll tell you more about that when we get there. Probably next week, I would imagine, or thereabouts. But watch this space. If you're part of our WhatsApp group, or if you're a follower over on either Demolition Insider or on our Buy Me a Coffee page, you'll get to know about it first. It will be free, no money required. So watch this space and we'll come back to you. But this is part 2. For decades, a quiet but critical flow of equipment has connected the developed and the developing worlds. In the shadows of headline-grabbing trade deals and climate summits, millions of items of used construction and demolition machinery have moved from Europe, the US and Australasia to parts of Africa, South America and Southeast Asia. These machines, often considered outdated or too emission-heavy for Western markets and tastes, are given second lives in countries where the environmental regulations are looser, the economic constraints are tighter, and the need for affordable equipment is insatiable. But this used equipment pipeline, the lifeline that has helped build roads, bridges, homes, and infrastructure in the developing world, is in danger of drying up. As the West accelerates its shift to electric and hydrogen-powered machines, the consequences will ripple far beyond their own borders. While headlines celebrate zero-emission fleets and futuristic machines, few are asking what happens when there's no longer a surplus of diesel-powered equipment to pass along. Fewer still are examining what happens when developing nations are expected to go green without the infrastructure, investment, or political leverage to do so. The environmental transition could be an economic reckoning. Used equipment sales have long been the foundation of affordability and accessibility in lower income regions. OEMs in the West sell or trade in older machines. Dealers refurbish and export them. End users in developing countries, contractors, municipalities, family businesses, buy them at a fraction of the cost of new equipment. The system works because it's mutually beneficial. Western nations reduce their equipment stockpiles, meet stricter emissions rules, and generate revenue. Developing countries, meanwhile, acquire proven, durable machines that can operate in harsh environments without requiring cutting-edge parts or high-level diagnostic tools. But as diesel is phased out and as more machines are built without combustion engines altogether, the inventory of exportable second-hand equipment is likely to collapse. There is no electric or hydrogen machine life cycle yet. There is no 15-year-old battery-powered excavator ready for resale. The global second-hand market, worth billions, is walking blindly toward a dead end. In the West, the move to electric and hydrogen is framed as inevitable. Politicians pledge carbon neutrality, cities declare climate emergencies, manufacturers launch glossy green product lines with aggressive timelines. Infrastructure, though under pressure, is slowly catching up. But in many parts of the developing world, these technologies are still impractical and beyond aspirational. Electric machines require reliable electricity, but in parts of sub-Saharan Africa, 600 million people still lack access to reliable electrical power. Blackouts are frequent. Rural construction sites can't support overnight charging or multi-megawatt battery banks. Hydrogen machines require refueling infrastructure that doesn't currently exist. Hydrogen is complex to produce, expensive to store, and potentially dangerous to transport. Even in the UK, Germany, and the US are struggling to build scalable hydrogen networks. Expecting Kenya, Bangladesh, or Bolivia to do so in parallel is unreasonable. Repair and maintenance for clean machines requires diagnostic technology, specialized technicians, and OEM support. Most developing nations don't have service centers equipped to handle lithium-ion faults, inverter failures, or hydrogen leaks. This isn't just a technology gap, it's a technology chasm. Excuse me. My phone's going off and I can't turn it off. Bear with me 1 second. The end. Right. What could emerge is a world divided, not just by wealth, but by machine and by fuel. On one side, clean, connected, highly advanced machinery operated in regulatory-rich nations, supported by charging networks, remote diagnostics, and robust supply chains. On the other, a growing void where used machines disappear, new ones are unaffordable, and legacy equipment becomes harder and harder to maintain. This two-tier system risks deepening inequality in global development. Without access to affordable diesel equipment and without viable alternatives, developing nations could see progress stall. Infrastructure projects may be delayed or abandoned. Local businesses could fold. Municipal services like waste management or road maintenance could suffer. In effect, the West will have pulled up the ladder that it once climbed. It's ironic. Advocates of clean energy often speak in glowing terms about the circular economy, repair, reuse, repurpose, recycle. But the global trade in used diesel machines is arguably one of the most effective examples of that principle in practice. Machines are used intensively in high-income countries. Then they're refurbished and sold to mid or low-income buyers. Then they're used for years, sometimes decades, often undergoing multiple life extensions, and then they're stripped for parts or rebuilt again. That is circularity. It's not glamorous, but it works, and it diverts machines from landfill, stretches capital investment, and supports local economies. The shift to electric and hydrogen threatens to break this cycle. Batteries degrade faster than diesel engines. Software licenses may expire. Proprietary components may not be available in the global south, and complex high-voltage systems may be deemed too dangerous to repair locally. What happens to an electric excavator with a dead battery in Cameroon, or a hydrogen-powered loader in rural India when the fuel cell fails? If the answer is scrap it, then the circular economy has failed its most basic and its most crucial test. Some Western countries are already debating whether continued export of older diesel machines could be curtailed altogether. From a climate standpoint, it makes sense. Why reduce emissions at home only to export them abroad? But this does raise serious ethical questions. Developing nations didn't create the climate. Excuse me, something in the eye. Developing nations didn't create the climate crisis. At least they didn't do it alone. They're still climbing the economic ladder. Denying them the tools that built the modern world without offering affordable alternatives smacks of environmental hypocrisy. If Western governments want to restrict diesel exports, they must surely accompany those restrictions with support funding, training, infrastructure, and access to new equipment at fair prices. Otherwise, they're simply outsourcing the consequences of their own success. There is a better path, one that acknowledges both environmental urgency and economic reality. Develop tiered technology pathways, allow the coexistence of low-emission diesel, hybrid, electric, and hydrogen machines tailored to each region's capabilities and infrastructure. Create global trade incentives. Rather than banning diesel exports, offer tax breaks or subsidies to companies that refurbish and export low-emission equipment to the developing world. Support parts and service independence. Open access to software, spare parts, and training to empower local machines, local mechanics, and reduce reliance on OEMs. Fund innovation in off-grid charging and hydrogen solutions. Solar charging trailers. I'll get this right in a minute. Solar charging trailers, microgrid energy storage, or modular hydrogen pods could bridge infrastructure gaps. Partnerships with local, regional stakeholders. Listen to the governments, contractors, and businesses on the ground. Let them shape the transition, not merely absorb it. The drive toward a clean construction and demolition industry is necessary, but if it's led by the wealthiest for the wealthiest, with consequences exported to the poorest, that's not justice. That is green colonialism. Real sustainability must be global. It must recognize that progress isn't made with mandates and declarations, but with machines in the dirt, steel in the ground, and fuel of some kind in the tank. If we abandon the developing world in our sprint towards zero emissions, we risk building a greener, cleaner, but deeply unequal future. The question is not what kind of machines we build next, but who gets to build with them. I think I've spotted the problem. I wrote most of that in Germany. I edited it this morning, but I don't think I've looked at it as much as normally when I write these things. I look at them the day before. They're fresh in my mind, and I'm part ad-libbing as I do it because I wrote that a while ago. So my apologies yet again for stumbling over my words. Awful performance. I promise you, I've outsourced the voice on the audio version. It will make a lot more sense when we get to that, I promise. What do we have here? What do we have there? Crystal says, now resale value realized on the export market. That 150 grand machine you bought is now worth scrap value at 5 years old. The other side of the coin is the rebuild market might thrive. Yes, it might. It might. As I say, it was talking to Ritchie Brothers, Bauma, that triggered part of that. I don't know about you, but I've got one eye on Ritchie Brothers and on Euro Auctions and all these other places because I'm keen to get a handle on what the reality of electric machine resale values really looks like. We've heard lots of talk about the batteries will be good for nothing after the first use, and then you've got the manufacturer saying actually the battery will outlive the machine. It shouldn't impact the resale value, but we don't actually have any proof of either part of that argument. So I've been watching them, and the more I thought about it, and I realised this is kind of an old-fashioned way of looking at it, and I realised that machines move. Machines sold second-hand here in the UK could end up just as easily in Ireland or France or Spain or Italy. Yeah, I fully accept that. But there has always been this supply chain that's gone from the West, Europe, for example, over to parts of Africa. And we are ramping up hydrogen and electric, which means that there will be fewer and fewer and fewer diesel machines. My guess, and it is but a guess, is that our friends in Africa, Southeast Asia, other parts of the world are not doing the opposite. They're not winding down their diesel in readiness for the electric. And that point about 600 million people in sub-Saharan Africa don't have access to reliable electricity. Now, by the time electric machines take hold, what are we looking at? 10, 20 years, maybe they will have. Maybe the world will pull its finger out of its arse, and rather than building the wealth among certain countries, we decide to spread it around a little bit, and everybody in sub-Saharan Africa will have access to a ready source of electrical power, in which case everything that I've just said will kind of make no sense at all. But as it stands at the moment, we are beginning, and it's a very slow beginning, we are beginning to phase out our diesel machines in favour, first and foremost, of electric, and then ultimately hydrogen. Does our downturn of use of diesel match the downturn of the diesel usage in those far-flung parts of the world? That's kind of my feeling on it. I predict that they will still be using diesel fuel machines in 75 years' time. However, I won't be there to see it. I've got a funny feeling you're right. I think you're right. I think there will be exceptions. But I do think, if you could fast forward to the year, what would that be? 2100? So 75 years, yeah, 2100. I would like to hazard a guess that most machines on construction sites, assuming construction is still permitted, will be electric or hydrogen or a combination thereof. I think the sites will be largely human being free. I think we'll have figured out that that's not necessarily the way to go, because of the danger and everything else. I'd like to think that people will be sat at home enjoying life rather than having to flog their guts out to earn a crust because the world is unfair. So yeah, but I as I say, one of the things, and I do mention this in the intro to the mini book or the podcast series, a lot of this is driven by having the time to think. While we were at Bauma, I was coming back to our digs of an evening, basically with not much more to do. Just go out and stuff a schnitzel down my neck and then go back and either watch telly or do a bit of work. And I was sat there just, what if? And then what if that happened? And then what if? And that was where all that came from. How many modern machines have an early demise because of electrical problems? And none that I'm aware of, but you could tell me otherwise. I would have thought they would be fixable, would they not? Jonathan Dura says the world won't be around by then. Kind of a bleak outlook, but given the way that the world is going, makes you wonder, doesn't it? Does make you wonder. I'm going to go slightly off piste here. I think I've made it fairly clear on my feelings on Mr. Trump and his minions, his cohort. The take on Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis. Not, poor old Joe, been a great servant and everything else. It's, did he cover it up? Is that why he wasn't a very good president? He's still crooked. Could you not, just for a second, just find just that tiny, tiny, tiny little shred of human decency to wish a dying man well? Could you not do that? Is that really beyond you? Or are you just too up your own arse, worried about what Bruce Springsteen is saying about you? And just to be clear, I'm with the boss. I too fear. I don't listen. I do watch too much American political coverage, but everything that I see playing out in the US, I can foresee being played out here in the UK. That shift to the right, Mr. Trump. Bearing in mind, Nigel Farage has been sat on the outskirts of everything that we do, pre-Brexit, post-Brexit, and everything else. He now has a playbook of how to come to power, and his mate Donald will be more than happy to share that playbook, I would imagine. It's, I think it's a pretty bleak time. I was trying to find the scraps of good out of the announcement that there's going to be a deal between the UK and the EU. Wouldn't be necessary if we'd been sensible enough to remain part of the EU and not go for Brexit in the first place, wouldn't it? Just, I was writing this morning, a completely unrelated subject. I was writing this morning about tariffs and trade deals and so on down the line, partly from the American experience and partly from the UK experience with tariffs being imposed on Chinese excavator manufacturers. And I was trying to draw an analogy, and I was drawing the analogy with, a medieval village where you'd have a village here and a village up the road, and maybe there was a village somewhere up the road that made a thing that you wanted. Let's say it's a horse and cart with nice wooden wheels or whatever, and you'd go and pay a visit to the were they blacksmiths? Did blacksmiths make carts? I don't know, but you'd go and visit the bloke that made the carts, and you'd negotiate a price. He'd go away and make it, and he'd supply it to you. At no point between his village and your village did anyone come along and say, we know you've agreed a price, but we've just increased that by 200%. And you, the buyer, who wants the cart for the hauling of the hay and whatever it is that you're going to use your cart for, you're paying that. Not the guy that built it, not the village in which he lives, but you, the buyer. You bought that particular cart because you needed to haul the hay, and you've allowed 45 shekels to buy that horse and cart, or buy that cart for your horse. And now somebody has come along wearing a red hat, a red tie, and some orange makeup and said, nope, we've just made that 200% more expensive for you. How do you like those apples? That's what we're talking about. Now, somebody over on Instagram has just arrived, and they go by the name of Currywurst. Currywurst is a fantastic name. It's also a fantastic product. If anyone's ever been to Germany, particularly Bavaria, Currywurst, curry sausage. Oh, I won't be able to stop thinking about that today. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Yes, part 3 of Beyond Fuel will happen tomorrow, which means I can then go away and finish the podcast. I can finish the mini book. As I say, it will be free of charge. What I may do, because we're always looking for new people to join the gang, as it were. I may put it up free to you guys because you're regulars, but I may actually put it behind a paid firewall for others, so they actually have to part with some cash to get it. I'll see how I'm feeling when I come to do it. Anyway, that's enough of that. That will do us for today, I think. Where are we? Well, nearly 50 minutes. Do I have enough for a recap today? I'll have a look. Let me see what I can do. I may be able to do that. Don't forget, 11 o'clock, in other words, in just under 11 minutes, there's a new article and a pop-up on Demolition Insider. It's also going to be over on LinkedIn as well. You'll be able to see it there. You'll also be able to see it on demolitionnews.com as well. Go and take a look at that. It is my apology, I guess, to not keeping in touch with those that suffer the indignity of losing their business, which is unforgivable. And just on that subject, bearing in mind here, we have a bit of a community going on. And people do lose their jobs and lose their livelihoods here. I'd like to think that here on this show, we would rally around, put our arms around shoulders, pat each other on the back, gee each other along, try and get each other back to work. And yet I find, and I am going to criticise trade associations, but I'm mainly going to criticise myself here. I know of quite a few people who have lost their businesses and who have fallen off my telephone call list. Rather than picking up the phone and saying, how's it going? Are you coming back? How's the wife and kids? Is everything going okay? Is there anything I can do to help you get back on your feet? I avoid it. And just going back to the whole trade association thing, if you're a member, let's take the NFDC because it's the one I know best. If you're a member of the NFDC, you may have been a member for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Maybe your dad joined the NFDC. You've taken over the businesses. And for one reason or another, often beyond your control, that business no longer exists. It's gone tits up, in other words. And rather than the NFDC and, other trade associations are available, rather than the NFDC putting their arm around your shoulder, helping you out, supporting you, encouraging you, exits over there. See ya. Don't let the door hit you in the arse on the way out. It's a bit crap, that, isn't it? And as I say, I can't criticise the NFDC or another trade association because, frankly, I'm every bit as guilty. So keep an eye out for that. I said it was 11 minutes time. It's not. It's actually 8.5 minutes time. So I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll be back tomorrow with yet more of the same. Final part of Beyond Fuel, plus some other stuff. Don't know what that is yet. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Look after yourselves. And if you hear of any jobs going requiring an Irish operator of some note, let Dan know because he's on the lookout. Till tomorrow, everybody, have a good day. All the best.